Welcome to another episode of the Freewheelin' Vans channel. Lately I've been having a rough idle issue with my van. That's been going on for about a month and a half. So I went ahead and I replaced my fuel filter and my spark plugs, thinking it was a fuel or spark problem. Didn't solve the issue. So then I started to notice that I was having like a hissing sound every time I was at a light with the brakes on, and it was making it run even rougher. It was getting worse. So I went ahead and I started doing a vacuum leak check and found out that I do have a vacuum leak inside of my power brake booster. In these older vehicles, if you're not aware, the power brake boosters are fed by vacuum from the engine. So I'm hoping that this is the problem. So what we're going to do in this episode is we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull out the power brake booster. We're going to ship it off to get rebuilt by ASB Power Brakes up in Orange, California, and then reinstall it. So stay tuned. All right, so let's get going on this thing. So the manual says that I'm going to have to take this out from the 90-degree bracket to the master cylinder. It's all connected. The 90-degree bracket is the only thing holding this in, but due to the tight area we have here, it's only going to come out one way. But what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to go ahead and try to keep the master cylinder in, hoping that the lines basically hold it up in place. So I'm going to disconnect the brake booster from the master cylinder, and we're going to try to pull it out that way. I'm hoping this works so I don't have to bleed the brakes later. Let's do this. All right, here she is, folks. Took a lot longer than I expected. Ran into some issues. This linkage here to the brake pedal, I realized the clevis on the inside here is too big to go through the hole. So you have to disconnect it on the brake pedal side, bring it through the firewall, and it'll come out. The other issue I ran into, I couldn't get this hose off. It's been on there for so long. So I went ahead and just cut the hose. I'll just put a new hose on. And then I made the mistake of using a ratchet wrench to try to get these nuts off. And I started with the outside. I should have started with the inside. But basically, the ratchet wrench got stuck on the end of the master cylinder because the area was too tight. So I really had to kind of like pry it off of there. Almost broke my wrench. So just keep that in mind if you guys try to do some work like this. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the bracket from the booster. I got to get this thing packaged up and sent out to ASB Power Brakes. And hopefully I'll get one back soon. All right, folks. It's been about 2 weeks. Finally got the brake booster back from ABS Power Brakes. They were going to repair it, and they told me that for $25 more I could just get a new one. So I went ahead and just did that. One thing to point out, after pulling off the old power brake booster, I found that my master cylinder was leaking from this seal right here that goes into the brake booster. I think this is what caused the brake booster to fail. The brake fluid got inside the brake booster and most likely contaminated it, causing the rubber diaphragm inside to basically blow out. So I went ahead and I purchased this new master cylinder. So now I'm going to have to bleed my brakes no matter what. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to get the brake booster connected to the 90-degree bracket that goes up against the firewall and basically plugs in the brake booster to the brake pedal. And then we're going to bleed the bleed the master cylinder. Get that ready to go. We're going to do a bench bleed on the master cylinder here. And then we'll install this to the brake booster and install the whole thing together. So I do still have the old master cylinder hooked up to the van. I didn't want to disconnect it too early, allowing additional air to get into the lines, contamination, that kind of thing. So I'm leaving that one hooked up until right before I go to install this. That way it's a quick removal and add-on. So let's get going on this. I do want to point out here, sometimes these car manufacturers don't make it very easy for the mechanics to work on things. In this case, they actually thought of the mechanic. They had this little cap that goes right here, and you got to put this clevis bolt, you have to put it through the clevis, and you can't really move the clevis out far enough to put the bolt in from the top. So basically you remove the cap and you can pop it right down inside into the clevis here. do have these spring style washers that need to go between the clevis and the bracket. So you just have to make sure that you line that up. All right, as you can see, let's see if we can get in there. It's all in, cotter pinned. There's the one that goes to the rod that goes through the firewall to the brake pedal. We're good to go. Don't forget to put your cap back on. Okay, we're ready to go. Bracket is on the brake booster, or the brake booster is on the bracket, however you want to look at it. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and do a bench bleed of the master cylinder. For the bench bleeding of the master cylinder, I'm using this brake bleeder kit. You can buy this at your local hardware or auto parts store. And what you want to do is you want to go ahead and put it together. It comes with these little tapered things here. You want to stick those in your outlet ports. And then you'll have this connection, this three-way connection here. And then you'll want to go ahead and stick it in to the reservoir here. You could hold it usually by the bracket here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this up with fluid. It does recommend that when you're pressing the detent that's going to come off of the brake booster, which basically this right here, this rod right here is going to go there when everything's hooked up. But this master cylinder came with extra pins. These don't fit my brake booster, but these are perfect for what you're going to need to do. Once you get the brake fluid in here and you're ready to start the bench bleed, you're going to basically stick this in here and just gently push, and it'll start to feed that fluid through the line back into the reservoir. And you got to keep doing that until you have no more air coming in. Once you get to that point, you're going to take these out. You'll take these out and you'll put these two plastic plugs that came with the master cylinder in. And then we'll mount the master cylinder to the brake booster. We will have to do a measurement here, which I'll show you how to do. But we'll put this on and then we're ready to get it installed back into the van. All right, we're all set up in the vise. I'm going to go ahead and pour some fresh brake fluid in here. Here we go. Obviously you can see all that air coming out. right, I think we're good. Now we got to take these plastic caps and we got to take these out and screw in the plastic caps. Screw in. There we go. And I'm going to put this in a bucket so it doesn't drip all over the place. Clean up the lip a little bit. I got a little too much fluid around the lip there. Okay, should be good. Now time to install it onto the brake booster. Okay, next what we have to do is we have to go ahead and measure the length of this rod that's going to go into the master cylinder. It has to be a precise length, and so you can use a tool like this. I bought this one on Amazon. I wasn't able to find it at the local auto parts store. But anyways, what you want to do is, you can see it's labeled master cylinder on the top. It has an arrow pointing that way. And then it says brake booster on the bottom and the arrow pointing that way. And then it says rounded pin end. And they're talking about this pin right here. So you can see that this pin is rounded on one end, squared off on the other. So you want the rounded one to be facing this direction. So what you're going to do is you're going to put this on your master cylinder. You want to make sure that the pin is loose so it can slide in and out. You want to stick this on your master cylinder flush. Push the pin in all the way till it bottoms out. Turn the knob. Double check, make sure it's bottomed out. Then you come back over here and it's too high. So I have to back it down even further. Let's make sure it's in all the way. Yep, it's in all the way. So it's too high right now. So it's got a little nut on the end. Basically just need to loosen that nut. I have a feeling this one's going to bottom out all the way. Double check that again. Make sure I can't go any further. Pretty much spot on. up my threads here. All right, we're good to go. I had opened these up just in case that rod hit here, maybe pushed it in a little bit as I was tightening it down, let some of that, some of the fluid out, some of that pressure, but nothing came out, so we're good. Okay, we're ready to go into the van. Let's do this. Okay, so by the time I got that brake booster installed, it was later in the evening and we had dinner planned, so I had to wrap it up. The next morning, my son and I got up early to bleed the brakes because we knew there was a weather front moving in. It was supposed to rain. We got the brakes bled, no issues whatsoever. In fact, there's nice, clean brake fluid now in all the lines, everything like that. And then we had errands to run that day, so we ran around town. It was drizzly throughout the day. The van ran great, no issues with the brakes. And in fact, the next day we actually got up to head up into the mountains here to go antiquing, hit some antique shops. In fact, I found this there in one of the antique shops there. But we hit Ramona and up near Julian. If you're familiar with the area, you know how windy those roads can get. You add some fog and rain into that. Perfect environment to test our brakes, and it did great. No issues whatsoever. So I wish I could have shown you the brake bleeding portion of our work, but unfortunately with that rain coming in, we had to get it knocked out as quickly as possible. If you like this video, I ask that you hit that like button down below. If you want to get updates on my videos as soon as they come out, please hit that subscription button. You'll get notified right away. And hey, keep sending in those comments. If you want me to post things or add content that are van related, shoot them in the comments and I'll see what I can do. So until next time, keep on vanning.